Zombies. Are you sick of them yet? The Walking Dead started its 4th season this past weekend, and it feels like every other week is bringing us some new movie, book, comic, or video game featuring reanimated corpses as the main antagonist. Zombies seem to speak uniquely to the early 21st century zeitgeist. After all, in a world paradoxically seeming to grow more crowded as we get less dependent on population size for basic mutual needs, what's scarier than being surrounded by endless waves of other people? Plus, they let us work out the age-old colonial/expansionist fantasy of overcoming the savage horde without being, racist about it. So there's that. Hard to believe, then, that only 3 decades ago, during what many consider the last great period for Western horror filmmaking no less, zombies were kind of considered passé. Oh, they turned up. I mean, technically Jason Voorhees has been a zombie since Jason Lives, but back then it was ghosts, slashers, demons, and straight-up monsters' time to shine for the most part. On the plus side, that meant when the 80s did deliver a zombie movie, it was often a pretty unique one. Case in point...
Remember the good old days when guns killed people?
You're just jealous, that's all.
Ah, the 80s buddy cop movie. There's nothing like it in the world, except all those other movies that are exactly like it. Treat Williams is LAPD Detective Roger Mortis, yeah, it's that kind of movie, and Joe Piscopo is his partner, Detective Doug Bigelow. One is smooth and classy, the other is a boorish slob. The only things they have in common are their sweet ride, getting chewed out by their obligatory angry black captain for kicking too much ass at their jobs, and the shared joy of gunning down street criminals.
Why aren't these guys dead? We've hit them about 50 times each.
Maybe they're just flesh wounds.
Will you cover me, please?
As our story begins, their current case involving a string of armed robberies has hit an interesting snag. 2 of the perps they just sent to the morgue had already been there. The investigation leads to a shady pharmaceutical company that seems to have developed a machine for reanimating dead tissue, which they surmise is being used by somebody to create zombie criminals. Things go to hell and Roger winds up dead, but since it's right there, and well, since this is why they made the movie, Doug and their lady coroner friend use the machine, not totally grasping what it actually does, to bring him back.
You're alive.
Of course I'm alive.
Oh my God.
What is it?
I'm not getting a heartbeat.
And so we have our premise. Roger is now a zombie cop out to solve his own murder.
Hey, you're hurt. Lady, I'm f***ing dead.
What's interesting is that zombies in dead heat are strictly dead things that have been zapped back to life, Frankenstein style. There's no supernatural element, no mutations, not even any flesh eating. Things come back in the same state they were when they died and get progressively more zombie looking only because of wear and tear and gradual decay since they don't heal anymore. Granted, it doesn't really explain why this one big guy has 3 faces, but it looks cool, so whatever.
What is this thing? Very ugly.
And it lets them do cool sequences like having Roger and Doug stuck in a Chinese butcher shop where the revivifying technology brings all the meat back to life. Creepy. And then subsequently awesome when they end up fighting what's left of a cow.
How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Oh no.
Also fun, Roger doesn't really get all existential about the situation for very long. I mean, he freaks out a little bit, but he gets over it and resolves to use however much time he does have to finish the case and get back at whoever was responsible. Huh, I'm dead. That sucks, but oh well, back on the job. Think how long present-day action heroes like Jason Bourne or Batman would still be whining about this. No time to whine, though, partly because the actual plot is kind of convoluted, to the point where you have to wonder if a bunch of scenes were left on the cutting room floor along with what were allegedly a handful of more extreme gore effects. It's a lot of misdirection and red herring about rich dead people, body switching, the chief medical examiner, and some late-coming Reagan-era social commentary from guest star Vincent Price.
Everybody dies, rich and poor. Death doesn't discriminate. At least not until now.
This is ridiculous.
Well, let's face it. Poor people are supposed to die, but the same rule doesn't apply to us. We're rich. God wants us to live forever. And even if he doesn't, we can always buy him off.
Mostly, though, the screenplay, an early effort by Terry Black, brother of Shane and writer-producer of the Red Steel games, exists to mash up zombie gore and 80s cop movie tropes and sticks with that premise once it gets there. Especially for Act 3 once Roger starts really looking the part of a zombie cop.
Jesus H.
Detective Mortis, homicide.
It's not like Dead Heat is some kind of forgotten classic. It's pretty cheesy, but you can probably attribute its memory holding to the presence of Joe Piscopo, 4 years out from having left Saturday Night Live and failing to get any kind of real career traction after that.
I gotta take a leak so bad my teeth are floating. Is there a little boys' room around here? I just got pee-pee.
Well, whatever. 1988's loss can be your gain, since Dead Heat is yet another obscure minor gem just waiting to be rediscovered, even if the only parts that'll really stick with you are the gore and the walking cow carcass.
I'm sorry, Roger. Please forgive me.